Got sweet honey in the rock in the background. I feel like I'm sneaking and playing it because I don't want Facebook to be acting up. Mm. Let's put that. Good evening. Good night. Good morning. Good afternoon. And good day to you. I am Ade here to. Oh, wait. I'm supposed to start IG. I thought I did, but I didn't. I am Ade, your transformational beingness artist. It's that time to have a conversation about representing our ancestors, representing our stories. Just breathe that in for a bit. Just take a moment and breathe it in. You are here to represent your ancestors. You are here to represent your stories. Let's take a breath. Let's take another breath. And this time I'm going to take a breath with my eyes open because it feels good sometimes to just close my eyes, to close out all the things that I'm seeing so I can listen to things and to beings. I would like to know what they mean by that because you got to listen to things and beings. Sweet honey in the rock. If you don't know them, check them out. Check out the breath song, breathe, one of the two. YouTube would help you. So this time, take a deep breath in and breathe out, and allowing yourself to just feel centered and grounded. Feel the roots from underneath your feet go deep down so you can remember. Just check in here. See that everything is broadcasting perfectly so you can remember that you're here to tell a story. You're here to tell a new story. That's what representing our ancestors is about. So the plan, if you will, is to do this broadcast every day since Sunday up until Saturday, right? I did Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I didn't do Wednesday because as soon as I set it up to go live, the internet went out. And it took about another hour before it came back on. I don't know what happened. I'm grateful that it came back on. But more importantly, I just had to say, okay, that's a sign. I'm not the type of person who, when I have an idea, when I have something I'm working on and something doesn't go right or goes wrong, I say, oh, it must mean I'm not supposed to do it. I'm not that. I just keep pushing. Sometimes that might be the message, but I keep pushing. But yesterday I felt like that was what the message was. I mean, I created a page I was creating a broadcast. Then I have to come in and click broadcast now. It just went up. So I took that as a message. I took that as a message from Spirit I didn't really take a break because I had a show with Ricky later on. And truth be told, to talk about representing stories, I was a little bit exhausted last night, but I wanted to keep to what I said I was going to do, what I've said Spirit wanted me to do. But the whole thing is about trust in the process. So trust in the process, listening to guidance, representing our end story. Quinn, living life in my 50s. Yes, I hope you're living it fully. Listening to our ancestors. One thing that I'm really understanding even deeper and deeper, like this ancestral work is something that I've been working with. Sorry about that. So I've been working with for many years. But now I feel like I am going even deeper with this, representing our ancestors, representing our stories. Some of you know how this came about. I still find it profound. profoundly transforming. So a year ago, after George Floyd was murdered, there were things happening. I was part of a group, and people were feeling anxious about the state of affairs in America. The protest was on. It was a few days after he was murdered. I'm here in Atlanta. I have a connection to Atlanta, America, in such a deep way that I can't even describe in words. So listen to my friends in the group that we were part of share their story, share the things that they were dealing with. It just broke my heart. Now, my heart was already broken watching CNN here in the UK, but there's something about, you can watch something going in another country, in Israel, people being abused, oppressed. The world is full of people who are going to do evil things. The world. Whoa, what just happened? Okay. Hey, Keisha. The world is full of people that are going to do evil things. That's just the way it is. Because that's what they know. When they forget who they are, when they forget that they're one with spirit, when they forget that they're part of everything. So there's a lot of BS going on in the world. Anyway, I was listening to my friends talk about their experience. It broke my heart even deeper. And I felt like I said, what can I do? How can I support? I went to bed the next morning. Well, while I was sleeping, I got representing our ancestors, representing our stories. It was just download through what I call dream vision. When I woke up, I knew exactly what was supposed to happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but the idea is to remind us, particularly Black people, in reconnecting with the strength, with the courage, with the vision, with the dreams of our ancestors, their prayer, their tenacity, their perseverance of not giving up. And it turned out, it came through me. I didn't even know how it was going to happen. And I remember I got a chance to do, a long story short, I had an opportunity to do it with Masanko and Michelle. And we did maybe an hour and a half kind of test. I guess Spirit was preparing me. And, it was so powerful, but I knew there had to be more. I knew more was being called forth. Anyway, eventually, Interplay, those of you who know, I'm a certified leader with Interplay, and Interplay was given, has a grant for this kind of work that supports the growth, the transformation, the healing, and the mental health of BIPOC communities. So someone said to me, "You're going to apply for the grant." I was like, yeah, I guess I'm going to apply for it, but I don't know what I'm going to apply for. I have no idea. Isn't it funny? Sometimes Spirit gives us an idea. Sometimes we're asking, what can I do? What is mine to do? What's my purpose? And then when it's time to show up, we kind of like, I don't know. But anyway, it finally came back to me that this is what was supposed to be birthed. I put in for the grant. I got it. It's the Interplay Racial Equity and Transformation grant, mini grant. So here we are. We did part 1, April 24th. My connection is doing something, so I'm not even sure if I'm broadcasting. Yep, I think it's freezing on let me see here. I don't know how I can do it with that. Let me see if I can do it, because I am having some Okay. Well, it looks like I'm back. There's some, I don't know what's going on with the internet, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep telling my story. Anyway, we did the first part of representing our ancestors, representing our stories last month, April 24th, where we did a grief ritual. My dear sister friend, Queen Michelle, joined me. It was a powerful session. This Saturday, we are telling a new story. And not only are we telling it, oh yeah, I just seems to be fine, thank God, but I don't know what's going on with, I'm looking at my modem. That's right, we got things to do. I was going to say something else. So this Saturday, May 15th, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UK time, the theme is telling a new story. What does that mean? What is telling a new story? So your life is a reflection of the stories that you're telling yourself, the stories you agree with, the stories you believe in. Whether you say, yeah, it's true, I believe those stories, or whether it's, even if it's not true and you believe it, your life becomes a reflection of the stories that you accept as true. And there are lots of stories we've been told right now that we bought into. We were told stories since we were children, since an infant by our parents. You know, be kind to strangers, be loving. Well, infant, they just wanted us to smile. Even when you were a baby, right? And you didn't feel like smiling, like, come on, hey, oh, there you go, you're laughing. We're programmed to respond to external stimuli. Yeah, all of that. We're programmed to respond to things that that people want from us. And oftentimes we are not always affirmed when we listen to what is true for us. As children, when we listen to what's true for us, we're either being told we're selfish, we're told that we're being greedy, we're told to share when we don't want to share. It's like, you're not being very friendly. So there's all those stories we're told in school, you know, where some people, I can't even imagine that. I facilitated a webinar a few days ago, and someone shared in there that she was told she would never amount to anything, that she's just taking up space when she was in school. Whew. I don't know why people can put their mouth together and say that about another human being. I really don't understand it. I think you must be, yeah. To tell another human being that they would never amount to anything. I mean, that's violent. You destroy someone's spirit by telling them they'll never amount to something at a young age. And people grow up carrying that. So there's stories that we carry with us, stories that we even believe we've confronted. Sometimes we feel like we confronted it. Sometimes we just parked it, tucked it away in the back of our minds, right? And we use all kind of things, experiences, addiction to overcompensate, to make ourselves feel worthy, to make ourselves believe that we are somebody, that we are going to amount to something. But we're spending most of our time and energy fighting the poison that was injected into our minds because someone said something we knew wasn't right, or maybe we even believed it was right, but we wanted to prove them wrong. So we spent more time fighting the lie instead of living the truth. What is true about you? What is true about us? What is true about me? We see a lot going on in the world, all sorts of oppression, discrimination, and we take all of that, we internalize it. We accept that we must be like that. When you look at it from a Black perspective, those of us in brown skin, because I'm eradicating that whole thing about Black, because I think, you know, you can keep changing. We have the choice to keep changing. But the idea that a group of people, white people, have decided to say they're more superior than people in brown skin, though something in us knows that it is not true. We hear it long enough. We hear it in songs. We see it in movies, in advertisement, because you're not represented. You see it all over the place. And Hollywood is probably one of the number one programmer in the world. And Hollywood goes out through movies to the rest of the world. And even people who don't live in the Western world believe it. They don't even know they believe it because there's all these subliminal messages that is bypassing our conscious mind. And after a while, we start to believe it. We start to believe it about ourselves. We start to believe it about each other. And what I'm about to say, I'm saying it really with with a little bit of grace, because you may have heard me say this whole thing about when we say Black people this, Black people that, which I think is stupid. To put every Black person under the same umbrella. Black people are from different parts of the world, different countries, speak different languages, different cultures, different traditions. I'm originally, yeah, my birth, my heritage, my roots is Nigerian, right? But in Nigeria, there are three main languages. There's Yoruba, there's Igbo, and there's Hausa. So the people, the Igbo people, when they're speaking, we're from the same country. I don't know. I mean, I may understand one or two things, but if they're talking to me, they might as well be speaking French or Spanish or Portuguese. The Hausas, yeah, I understand one or two things, but that's it. But somehow, so here I am coming from a country where I don't even understand the language of everybody from that country. You put me under the same box with somebody maybe from Trinidad and Tobago, somebody who was born in America, somebody who was born in Cuba, and we put it under this one umbrella. Black people are this, black people are that. But what I want to say to that is, we believe that narrative it bypasses the conscious mind. Most of us, the things that we believe, we say, of course I'm not like that, but we start acting it out. I'm thinking of a conversation I had with my beloved where I was talking about, I don't even fit the typical way of how a man is. And, I'm not really into sports. I would watch it when during the finals. There's some things that I'm just thinking that's not me. But this day, I was having a breakdown and sort of holding back because I didn't want to be vulnerable in front of her. And I was like, well, so I say I'm not like the typical man, but here I am not wanting to be vulnerable. There is a narrative that men don't want to be vulnerable, can't be vulnerable, don't show their emotions. Well, we do. Men do. Men get angry. That's a form of emotion. Upset, all sort of things. But anyway, I digress. But sometimes we say we don't believe in something that is not true for us, but somehow we act it out because the information can bypass the conscious mind. And when it does, and it goes into your subconscious mind, it plays itself out. So when we have been programmed unconsciously, we start to act it out. So we see another black person and we judge and criticize. This is not just a black thing either, but since we're on this topic and the whole thing about George Floyd, I'm staying with that. White people do it, but we've bought into the BS that we think is just exclusive to us. So we buy in, we internalize the oppression, we internalize the lies, the stories. We see another person that looks like us and we don't want to be like them. We're trying to fight not to fit the stereotype what the white bodies have said about us. So sometimes we're unconsciously trying to outdo one another. We judge one another. And then again, that's a human quality. When we feel disconnected, when we are not connected with the source of our own being, when we don't know who we are, when we feel like we don't belong, when we feel like what I have to say, when people feel like what I have to say doesn't matter, when they feel like they're not worthy, they're going to fight to be seen. And they'll try their best to outdo you or be better than you. So that story continues. They even raise their children with the same story. Don't let anybody do this to you. Don't let people going to try and walk over you. People parent from pain as opposed to a space and place of belonging. Now, whoops, a daisy. I just dropped everybody on IG. Look at this. I hear a joke coming up. It might pop off again because this thing is not clipping very well. I need to get another one. So parents parent from pain rather from a place of belonging. Now, I think most parents do it. And I think it's all part of the design. We're here to represent our ancestors. We're here to tell a new story. I know I've been talking about this story. What is it about? Where is this event? Well, I've told you about the event. If you're listening and you're kind of eager to find out more, even if you're not eager, you got to go check it out because it's happening this Saturday and you're invited. So go to bit.ly/represent stories. Not just your stories, our stories. bit.ly/represent /represent stories. Type it in, register, join us on Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UK time. So we buy into stories of not belonging, which I really believe is part of the plan. I think our existence on this plane is a way in which God gets to not only represent itself, God gets to see what else is possible if I do this. What else is possible if I'm not so loving? How would I feel? God is all there is, right? God is everywhere, evenly present, all knowing. So how else can God entertain itself? By trying different things, and God knows that it is unconditional love. So whatever action, if you will, that God takes, God is always going to love itself. You are the place where God gets to represent itself. Since you are the place where God gets to represent itself, it is your responsibility to represent your ancestors so you can represent the true story about you. Are you what they say about you, or are you what you know about yourself? We are spiritual beings. We are here to heal. We are here to grow. We are here to transform. We are here to tell a new story for those who are yet to come. And we don't have to do it as a sort of obligation. We don't. It's a choice. But here's the thing. I believe that each and every one of us are here on a mission. And our soul knows why we're here. And unless, I don't want to say it like that, but maybe I will. I'll say it this way. The more we listen to what our soul is saying, and we follow the guidance of our soul, the more centered we're going to feel, the more peaceful we're going to feel, the more joyful we're going to feel. And we can choose not to do that, because love is always going to love us. Love is love's responsibility. Unconditional love is to love you no matter what. But here's the thing. You will know when you are not showing up. You will know that there's some stories that you believe about yourself. And I'm not just talking about the stories of oppression that happened to you. Sexual assault. Being abused. Generational trauma. Yes, all of that and more. All of that and more. I'm just trying to see, because it looks like I'm frozen again. I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to keep talking. All of that and more. So we're here to retell the story. So the things, the generational trauma that we went through that was passed on to us. I don't see it as much on social media, but sometime last year, there was a lot of that conversation as if Black people are just doomed. We're all living generational trauma. And that becomes one other thing that we're carrying on our shoulders, like, how are we going to survive this? But we got to remember who we are, that we are loved, that God loves us. God is always whispering. God is always broadcasting the truth. Your guides, your ancestors. Of course, I got to show this graphic. Those of you who watch the broadcast on a regular basis have seen this, but you can never, those of you in IG, you won't get a chance to see this, so sorry. So looking at the graphic, for you to be here today, if you start counting backwards, so you 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, everybody. If you're alive today, this is your story. We got this in common. If you go 12 generations, you will count 4,096 people that came together for you to be here today. 4,096. That's just 12 generations. You start going back, counting. You have 4,096 people that came together for you to be here today. They pass life on to you. Now, check that out. Hey, Raven, how are you doing? Nice to see you. They pass life on to you, right? What else did they pass on to you? What was their story? What were their stories? What stories were they holding that maybe they didn't express? Maybe they were ashamed, afraid, felt guilty to express. Think about it. Those stories are passed on. That way of being is passed on because you're a part of them. Now, we can hold on to that because we'd like to hold on as human beings. We like to talk about the hard things. Hurt people, hurt people. Yes, hurt people, hurt people. True. We know that. But guess what? Healed people heal people. We won't say that for whatever reason. Everybody knows you can go anywhere and say hurt people, hurt people. We focus more on, how would I say it? We focus more on our flaws. We focus more on things that is hard to deal with, our struggles and our pain. That's it. We focus more on the struggles and the pain rather than ways in which life is sustaining us, in ways that our bodies are healing and replenishing us. When we eat, we don't write a to-do list. I'm going to eat and I'm going to sit down well, some people do, I guess, maybe. Sit down for like 10 minutes and I'm going to let my body digest the food. Some do. If you're like me, I finish eating and I'm like, what was on that plate again? I can't remember. And then I move on to something else. But I'm learning to breathe when I eat. So think of what is great about you, how your body is designed to bring you back into alignment. So when you're healed, the way you interact with another is from a place of lovingness, loving kindness. You're compassionate. Let's amplify that. So representing our ancestors, representing our stories is an opportunity to tell stories about your family. But here's what I want to highlight tonight. Especially those of us in the spiritual community, we're always talking about loving another, being caring, being empathic to humanity. But sometimes we don't talk a lot about being caring to ourselves, being loving to ourselves. How can you be loving to yourselves? What is your story? What stories are you carrying? Stories of shame, stories of guilt, stories of not enough, stories of feeling less than, maybe stories of feeling like I don't belong. Okay, I can take this off the screen now. I got so caught up in that. The stories that don't belong. We carry those stories and we do spiritual bypass. Well, I'm not going to focus on that. I just release and let go. Yes, that's what we need to do, to forgive ourselves and release and let go. And as you release and let go, what are you replacing it with? And here's something else to be aware of. If you can't fully embody your own story, you can't heal it. If you're not willing to face it, if you're not willing to become aware of it, speak the truth about it, I don't think you're going to heal it, because you just keep a little bit of it back there. When you're courageous enough, when you're willing, when you're available to your own story, whether it's a good story, a bad story, a horrible story, something that's been passed down from family from generation to generation, and you make space to talk about it with a friend, with a therapist, with a coach, with a healer, with a teacher, with a pastor, with an imam, somebody you trust, your best friend, and you get to tell that story, you giving yourself permission itself. That's the healing, first of all. And then to express it. I had similar experience this past Tuesday. Tuesday was challenging for me. It was a day where they talk about come to Jesus kind of day. I was like, come on, enough. And I had a friend talking to me, and they were talking about things that they're dealing with and actions and choices that they need to make, that they're really feeling the need to make. And as they were telling their story, the things that they were saying they needed to do, think they should do, and what they haven't done was my story. We never had this conversation. And as I was listening to them, I was like, okay, Spirit, I hear you. Because they became an answered prayer to the questions I was asking Spirit. that was asking God, like, I need to know when we tell our stories to one another, our own stories, not the stories of Buddha or Jesus, the stories of Mother Teresa's and Mandela's. Those are powerful stories. But the most powerful story that creates even a deeper shift is when you're telling your own story. And it doesn't matter if it's a story of struggle. Now, if you're telling a story of struggle and pain, and you just keep talking about my life is this is never going to be, I'm never going to succeed, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, if you do it the first time, the second time, the third time, yeah, okay, you're releasing it. But when it becomes your way of being, you're just adding more of that. You're passing that on to the next generation. However, when you tell the story with the intention to see something different, to see something new, and not only that, you make room for the stories that wants to be told through you. That's what representing our ancestors, representing our stories is about. So this Saturday, Masanko, my brother, friend, and I, we're going to take you through processes where you're actually, it's more embodiment practices. So you can tell your own story, you can share your story, and create space where you just might catch a new story that you didn't even know where it came from. A liberating story, a story that caused you to leave the gathering and go forth back to your family, back to your apartment. I mean, you're going to be on Zoom anyway, so you're probably where you are. But wherever you go and people you're working with, you get to take a new part of you with you because it's more energetic. Yes, the mind is going to be cleared. You're going to see things differently. But healing is more about an energetic shift. bit.ly/represent stories. Represent stories, however you want to say it. bit.ly/represent stories, represent stories. Hey, Raven, you said, whoa, that is amazing. I've never thought of this before. What? I know that I'm 10 seconds behind, so I'm not sure. What are you referring to? And that's also a good point. I want to say that before I release this conversation. Within us is deep wisdom. And I want to say, let me say that affirmative. The more we place ourselves in the space to catch a new thought, the more we find ourselves catching new thoughts, new ideas, insight, and go, excuse me, wow, never thought of that before. There is a solution to all that you're going through and growing through. There is an answer. There's a solution. There's an answer to what's going on in politics in the United Kingdom, U.S., whether it's Israel, Palestine, wherever in the world, Nigeria. There is an answer. But the question is, are you willing to be the answer? We often think that the Martin Luther Kings of the world are the only ones, like selected few, Mandela. No, you just got to be willing to die before you die. We're afraid of dying because we think it's the end. Yes, it's the end. And when you die to the old story, you get to retell a new story. You get to resurrect. Yes, that's right, Keisha. We get to create a space to catch a new thought. If we think the same thought over and over and over and over, we start believing the same thing. Actually, we just live by the same belief system. And we're convinced that the erroneous things are going on in the world. That's how it's going to be. It's going to be like that. But do you know that we can change how we relate to one another in our lifetime? We can really change how we relate to one another with loving kindness. We can change that. And it's not that it's not happening. It's happening. There's so much good going on in the world right now. There's so much good that people starting organizations and businesses So much good going on in the world, but we don't hear that in the mainstream media, so we think that's what it is. Again, and then when we follow those stories and we click on it in social media and IG on YouTube, they give you more of it. That's how the algorithm works. In a spiritual terms, it's called law of attraction. Wherever you put your attention, you get more of it. The algorithms are the master of law of attraction. You like it, you share it, you watch it for a certain amount of time. It says, oh, this is good content. Let me share more. People are interested. And he's definitely interested because he spent some time looking at it. He liked it. He shared it. Then I get more of it. So if someone's being abused, someone's being killed for no reason, just for the color of their skin, someone's being mistreated, and that's the things, the videos that I watch, I'll get more of that. And if I'm not careful and I just get in this tunnel and believe that's the only thing that's happening, representing our ancestors, represents our stories, is to break out of the bullshit, break out of the box, and just remind ourselves that there is no more comfort in the comfort zone. We got to step out. And if we're willing to step out, if we're willing to speak the truth, if we're willing to be the Lone Ranger sometimes it's exhausting. That's why we must take care of ourselves. And part of taking care of ourselves is telling a new story. Sometimes it's saying, I just don't have nothing to say to you. And sometimes you taking that stand and sharing that with other people, especially when white people feel like they got to learn about what's going on, the oppression of black people through black people. When Google is right here, YouTube is right here, books are right here, that everybody have access to. And on the flip side too, we have to understand that if we're calling anybody to task to grow and expand and transform, we have to grow and expand and transform. That's something else that we have to pay mind to. If we're wanting white people, yes, healing racism is white people's work. I'm not a racist. They ain't got nothing to do with it. Are you in a white body? It's your work. As a man, I could say, well, I'm not out there raping women. There's nothing I can do about it, but it's men's work. And I can look back at some things now and say to myself, definitely there wasn't consent. We didn't understand that. We weren't thinking that. But there's things I can look back and say. So as men, it is our responsibility to bring end to domestic violence, domestic abuse, to rape. Women are being raped, men are being raped, and predominantly, based on the statistics, is more men. So until we men start calling out one another, we're willing to step in. When you're driving down and you see a man abusing another woman and willing to say something, and you might say, well, you might get yourself killed. Well, guess what? It's probably strong, but if you watch someone else being abused and you turn away from that, something in you, something in us dies. And oftentimes, it is a will to make a difference. It is a courage to stand up. We missed an opportunity to speak the truth, to act with love. Love is not passive. There's nothing passive about love. Love will have you tell the truth, the uncomfortable truth. So join us this Saturday, May 15th, 2021, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UK time. Go to bit.ly/represent stories or represent stories. Share this, broadcast. Like it, share it, like it, share it. Why? Because you're watching it. So you obviously like it. So if you like something and you don't share it, what kind of story are you telling? No, but really, when you like it and you share it, speaking of algorithms, we can use it to our advantage. You're letting the algorithm say, oh, this is important to share. Let me see. So the more we do that, the more we flood the internet with the kind of things we want to see. And, the work of transformation is messy. Growth is messy. But it doesn't need all of us to be on board for healing to happen. And that's why I believe the things, a government that comes from a place of compassion and understanding, sometimes we think it can't happen. It can happen in our lifetime. We've had experiences. This is not just, I'm not making this stuff up. We've lived it. Those of you that I see in the chat room, we've lived this. There was a time Black people never, they didn't even think about it. Forget saying it's not possible that a Black man will be a president. It was just not even a thought. It's not a thought. And not just Black people. I'm sure white people knew it too. It may be unconscious. So when a Black man shows up, saying running for president, I'm like, what is this Negro doing? You're going to get yourself killed. And then it happens. And we're like, oh my God. We take a collective breath. And because of the unresolved issues, when Barack Obama and Michelle were walking during the inauguration day, and they were walking out, they came out the car walking. A lot of Black people would tell you how they were holding their breath, like, please get back in the car. 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 I remember there's a program, those of you in America know, Blackish. And they did a particular scene about that. And what's his name? Not Andre. I can't remember. I think his name is Andre. I don't remember his real name. But the main actor was talking about that story and did this monologue. I remember, this was many years later. Barack wasn't even in office anymore. I was getting emotional because I remember the ways that people are being killed in UK that doesn't even make it to the news. It's people of color. Black people are treated like whatever. And sometimes it's not even conscious. So we got to be willing to stand up, to speak up. You're not doing it for others. You're doing it for yourself. When you stand up, you get to access a part of yourself that you didn't even know existed. You don't know how strong you are until you're in a place where you have no choice but to be strong. I'm telling you what I know. I'm telling you what I know. Sometimes you will never know how strong you are until you have no choice but to be strong, but to survive, but to maintain your sanity. And if someone else is being abused, mistreated, oppressed, you have a responsibility. We have a responsibility. So one of the things I always say is, even if you don't join us to do this work, do the work. The best work you could ever do is the ancestral work. I'm not interested. Well, I am interested, but I don't really care if you think you have ancestors who did bad things. That means you're the one to heal it. And guess what? If you don't heal it, it lives in you. You're going to live it out. You end up being so mad with those who came before you and not even realizing they live in you. And that madness starts to run you, becomes a story that runs in the background. So you don't even trust your own self because you have ancestors that have done stuff that you're not proud of. And we all got to remember, yes, there were people who did horrible things. And those people who came before us, you go back 20 generations back, and you have just a little over 1 million people that came together for you to be here. Come on. From different countries that we probably don't even know their names anymore. Different cultures, different languages. They dreamed, they visioned. They had a goal. They prayed. They danced. They praised. They believed. They knew that they were going to survive. Sometimes they had to compromise in order to save a life. They didn't give up. They persevered. They stayed alive long enough for you to be here. They made love, even in the midst of it all, or plague or whatever. They all came together just for you to be here today. What are you going to do with your life? It's time to release this conversation. Thank you all for joining me. Once again, don't forget, like and share it. Join us Saturday, May 15th, 2 days away. bit.ly/represent stories. We are representing our ancestors to the world and to ourselves. And we're representing our stories and changing the narrative. When you represent your ancestors and you represent your stories, you feel a sort of groundedness. It's like you got new roots that you're connected to. Your life depends on it, and you get to hear things that you haven't heard before. Like you have a deeper connection with God. How far can you go back with those numbers if you keep adding, multiplying, and keep going back? Where are you going to end up? Infinity. What is God? The infinite. God is the oldest ancestor. So when you connect with your ancestors, when you remember them, when you honor them, you're remembering and honoring God in ways that is personal. If you can't get to that and that goes over your head, connect with your elders, your parents. Ask them their stories. Ask them about their parents. Sometimes they don't want to talk about it because it's horrible. Ask them why they don't want to talk about it. And they might not want to talk about that. So even though, I was trying to wrap this up, even though they don't talk about it, that itself is a story. What could be so bad that my mother, that my father, that my grandparents don't want to talk about what it was like for them when they were growing up? That's a story to tell. And then we have a responsibility not to keep that secret, because secrets become dis-ease, and dis-ease becomes health challenges. They become something that manifests in the body. We are the one we're looking for, waiting for, searching for. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I thank God for you. Thank you for being here. I'm out. Peace and blessings.